extraordinary collection. But my proudest boast is that I'm a publisher, and that we've recently published 2 extraordinary books by Dervla Murphy, who's a living legend of commitment and engagement with the world. And that she's a travel writer is almost accidental. I mean, I think in another life, Dervla would have certainly worked all her life in Amnesty or in groups. You know, travelling is in order to find a story. But she has spent the last, well, we have spent the last 3 years talking about Palestine.
Yes.
And exploring
Non-stop.
it non-stop. And this is just the beginning of what is planned to be a trilogy, God willing, inshallah. And Dervla tonight is, well, the reason we're here is she's come at the invitation of a travel agent in Bristol who wanted to honour one of their old companions who died in a mountain accident. And they have an annual sort of charitable lecture, and they've sold all, I think, 350 seats to listen to Dervla tonight. Yes, but Dervla will be deeply bored because the questioner is a young travel writer who we're both very fond of. But what she wants to talk about is Palestine.
Yes.
Inevitably, the evening will be about setting off with a bicycle with a revolver. But these books are deeply, passionately engaged in Palestine, and a living witness, and a very, very recent witness. And Dervla just set off without film cameraman, without visas, without anything, just with a t-shirt, very scruffy back, and a biro and a notepad, and it's just living anthropology. It's encounters with new Russian immigrants to Israel, Palestinians all over the country, and it's just a soundbite, the sort of things one wish one was brave enough to do, and Dervla has done for us.
You've done much more, as you very well know.
No, I have not. And we're not, because we're going to keep Dervla fresh for this evening. But if we wanted, if we wanted just 2 or 3 questions from the group, and you're all Quakers, I gather. Society friendly. Yeah.
That's the first question. Did you meet a Quaker?
Indeed, Ramallah. It was wonderful. This Quaker school in Ramallah. Yes, I went in there several times and was really, really impressed by what they were doing and the way they did it. And, you know, hearing about their history there and how they, you know, as Quakers do, quietly functioned away during the worst of the upheavals over the last century, really. And they were always there for everybody. And therefore able to do so much that had they been identified with, I think, any other version of Christianity, they would have been limited because of the various backstories, as they say. But everybody trusted them as Quakers. I was really, really impressed.
But don't just because Dev's being nice to you about Quakerism at the moment. This is a determinedly secular book that attacks the misuse of faith in very unbridled language.
Well, I've always said Quakers are the only Christians I've any time for. You know, for many decades I've been saying that.
Beware of the Irish child, but it's true.
So you know Newtown School?
Indeed. Do you?
I've been there.
You've been there.
There was a big hoolie in Mount Mellick recently. They came up from Waterford.
Really?
A lot of Quakers did. It was the welcoming of William Edmondson, who was the first Quaker to settle in Ireland.
Yes.
In the 1600s.
But you said that there's a third book. What's
Hope so.
Yeah, me too. But can you tell us a little?
No.
No.
I'll just give it away that Dervla and I were both looking very keenly at the analysis of Palestinian refugee camps outside of the Holy Land. We're both taking photographs and taking notes.
Does that count as a trailer?
No, but I mean, what I do hope to, well, no, I don't hope personally to see it, but I hope in the end that the one-state solution will be accepted, because sadly it's too late for the two-state solution. They're just, the land has been so divided and settled and messed up that it's not possible. And I think the fact that you've got the two sides are going to lose. The Palestinians are going to lose their independent state, and the Israelis are going to lose their Jewish state if this does come about. And that fact, two losses should end up as a big gain if people in the years ahead, or maybe I'm thinking of decades. I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Not going to happen in our lifetime. But
No.
as well as publishing these brand new books, we've also reprinted what I consider as Dervla's sort of 8 classic first travel books as a young woman. And one of them is A Place Apart, where very unfashionably she wrote about Northern Ireland, when everybody in the Michels didn't want to hear some awful stories of murder, ethnic tension and hatred, and went, again, like these books, bicycled and just talked to people in pubs and bars, talked to everybody, everywhere, from generals to known surgeons of the IRA and everything. It's an extraordinary testimony that she did and suggested that there is a possibility for dialogue. And that book was ahead of its time, but is fortunately, for the moment, being realised as an extraordinary opportunity. And there are examples in the world of South Africa, which we praise.
Yes.
There are, but it's extraordinary when Dervla is saying in one state she's being spat at by both Palestinian support groups and Israeli, but once you start articulating things, it's amazing how quickly, once you start talking in non-swank. I was at a dinner with an ambassador this week in London, and he said there isn't a Palestine issue anymore.
Exactly.
Not even, no one's talking about it. It's just been dropped off.
Yes.
This is reality, not to be quoted, but it should be dropped from the table. There is no Palestine state available.
That's
So,
why it worries me actually to hear the Palestinian Authority talking about appointing ambassadors and flying the flag outside the United Nations. I mean, that further confuses this, as your friend said. We're past that stage,
We're past that.
and we've got to recognise that as the first step on the next stage.
The British Parliament did pass a resolution in favour of the recognition of Palestine.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that's what I regret. Governments, and the Irish government did that too, because they don't understand that it's an impossibility. I mean, the land doesn't exist anymore. There wouldn't be the Palestinian state. And in a way, I think you've got to actually to see it, to see those roads that have used up so much of their land, the apartheid roads in which only the Israelis, the settlers, can drive, and the land that has been taken from them, and the water.
Yes.
That's, and you see, already it is one state in so many practical ways, the water, the electricity. I mean.
I would like to ask a question regarding the settlements, because they are still under international law illegal.
Of course they're illegal, yeah.
So the land belongs to the Palestinians, at least the West Bank.
Ah, yes. But I mean, you've got to accept that nobody's going to give them back their land. It's awfully hard to bear with. The thought is a horrible thought, but it is the reality. And I'm afraid dodging it is not any longer helping the Palestinians. I mean, 40 years ago to agitate for the two-state solution was the obvious thing.
And I think we all know, the decisive date is 1967. Before that, Israel could be seen as the golden godchild of democracy, socialist, agricultural politics. It seemed to be kibbutz, it seemed to be everything in its favour, and after that it became the conqueror, ruler of a larger community than it could offer citizenship. And so it was the golden, it was the chalice they wanted Jerusalem and possession of historical kingdom of David and Solomon. But in doing so, they destroyed their own republic in a way, and they have yet to really face up to the dynamics
but
of that.
that's interesting, Barnaby, that more and more are facing up to it. And you know, I read Haaretz every morning. And over the last 6 months, there's a huge increase in the number of commentators, Israelis, or Israelis living in the United States, but mostly Israelis living in Israel, who say that if the present status quo continues, Israel is finished. You know, and it could come in all, that remark could come in all sorts of different contexts to do with the economy or the health service or education, whatever. It's not necessarily any question of these articles being deliberately written about the future. But this comment comes in that things have to change before, for Israel to survive. That it's being destroyed by the occupation.
Could you explain to the group your source of information? Because it's extraordinary that the Jewish papers...
The Haaretz, the daily newspaper, published, there's an English edition published every day in Jerusalem, and I subscribe so that I can read the English edition every morning while I'm having my breakfast. I read it and take notes and print out the articles that are relevant. And it is, you would never see those articles printed in our mainstream press or in the United States. You would never see the comments and the analyses and the condemnations, and I mean it's unthinkable that you'd see them, even in the Independent or the Guardian. They wouldn't dare.
Connected to that, I get the impression that you travelled through Israel, Palestine, and you talked to a lot of people who presumably were Palestinians, and we all, I think most of us here, understand the oppression and the injustice that's going on, that's violating Palestinians. I presume you spoke to Israeli people as well?
A lot.
Yes, this
So
is half Israeli dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay. And the question is, did you find any Israeli sympathy or empathy for what the Palestinians are going through?
Oh, I mean some of the best supporters in the whole world of the Palestinian cause are the Israelis. I mean, the rabbis for peace and the doctors for health, the lawyers for justice, and I mean there are endless organisations, but they do represent a tiny percentage of the population. But I think they're influential out of all. Their influence is much greater than their numbers would seem to justify. And they're very, very brave.
Yes.
And the women too, who, what do you call them? Begins with an M. The organisation of middle-aged women who just go and stand at various checkpoints. That's it, yes.
Equipped with black sash.
And they're so brave. And they do have a restraining influence on the young soldiers. If you just stand and watch, and which I used to do at Hawara checkpoint, the Annapolis, stand there for one day for a few hours and just watch when there are no women observing, Israeli women observing what's going on, and same thing another day when the women are there, and there's a whole different atmosphere. As this, of course, especially is the young Palestinians who are so humiliated so often, just deliberately humiliated by the young conscripts. And so yes, I mean a lot of good being done by the Israelis.
Last question, and then
I just wondered what your thoughts were on the refugee issue. So Palestinian refugees in Syria, in Jordan, in Lebanon. What's the way forward?
I want to go and talk with them in those countries. And, I mean, there has to be some arrangement made. I think, I don't know, not having been with them, I can't say, but I get the impression from a lot of my Palestinian friends that a considerable number of those refugees, if they were given fair compensation for the land that has been taken from their families, that they would be quite resigned to not going back to live in Palestine, Israel, in that territory. But of course then I'm told there are a certain number who would insist on going back and have every right to, every right. But it's very difficult to know because there's so, how many are there? There are more, I think, altogether in their diaspora.
Yes.
There are more outside Palestine
Yeah.
and Israel than inside.
No, there's 7 million outside. 7 million Palestinians.
Yes. Yeah.
But I went to a very, very bad debate in the RGS, meant to be for sort of Jewish-friendly, looking at how they could present themselves again. And one of the most powerful speakers there, because it was a very ugly story about the annexation of land, was a sort of Jewish. It was
World Geographical Society.
World Geographical Society. It was Intelligence Square. It was a sort of for sort of Jewish-friendly people, so it didn't get immediately bloodthirsty. But it became the most violent, bitter evening. Supporters of Israel, basically Jewish Londoners.
When was that?
That was last year.
Yes.
But the one articulate sort of bit of the argument I want to take away from it was comparing the fate of the rest of Europe. There are millions of Germans who were in Silesia and Poland who are now millions from India to Pakistan and Pakistan to India. The whole of the 20th century, particularly the post-Second World War, was full of vast population transfers. And I thought that was the one powerful point that needed to be pointed out. This is a world experience.
Exactly.
The Chinese diaspora after the revolution. You know, it's something we've all have to digest and absorb. And my own Anglo-Irish family, I mean, certainly would never go back to Ireland now. And everybody is full of regrets and sadness.
Yes.
And you know,
Yes, and that, I mean, that's what we have to remember too in relation to all the new refugees coming to Europe.
yeah.
I mean, I know, is it 1 million, they say 1.5 million this year will come at the end of the year. I think that's the UNHCR calculation. But as you said, there's been, you know, several people have remarked recently, it's not, it sounds a huge number, but in relation to the numbers of displaced people at the end of the Second World War, it's nothing.
It's nothing. And we've seen in our own recent lifetime the gutting of the Persian middle class, of the Shafel,
Yes.
the Afghan class, all going to the
Yeah.
West,
Yeah.
disabling their own countries to evolve. And this is another, something that's a part of the world demography, not about the one. But anyway, we don't want to exhaust you because we're trying to keep you fresh this evening. Thank you very much for
reference on that newspaper that you paid for to have every
Haaretz.
Haaretz.
Yes. HAARETZ.
Is that free?
No,
No, you pay that $95 a year. But it's well worth it.
I get an event online newspaper called Al Monitor, which
Yes.
I get every day.
Yes.
I think
That's very good.
Haaretz can be searched online. Haaretz you can find online news.
The Al Monitor has about a third or quarter of its articles on Palestine.
Yeah, very
Yes.
good links. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at that again, part of my breakfast routine.
But I suppose why I feel it's worth reading Haaretz is because it is the Israeli feelings. Because I mean, you get the most vile Zionist articles, as you can imagine, and the most vicious slanders against the Palestinians and all the rest. But you get everything in Haaretz, really, genuinely both sides. And that's what makes it worth reading in some detail.
can we end by just thanking the staff and the volunteers for this extraordinary museum?
Yes.
I guess we're
It's
incredibly,
wonderful.
incredibly
Yes,
impressed by
staff.
your
They're all
energy.
volunteers.
You're volunteers, you're volunteers.
And it is said, Barnaby, why can't there be something comparable in London?
Why can't we?
You know, really.
Yeah.
We are ready for that.
Yeah.
Anyone want to say
And
that
return
one?
as a colony in Bristol.